This is Daniel from iApologia.com. Today we're going to be talking about public schools, private schools, Christian schools, and homeschooling. We'll be looking at a number of different articles, actually 3 today, quickly here, talking about homeschooling and the difference between that and public schools. And I think I'll be fairly building up the case about public schools, and I think these 3 articles are going to be very powerful. I could give you 1,000 other articles just like these, or that would tell just the same types of stories or worse. So with that, let's get strapped in and let's jump into the first article here. The first one comes from LifeSite News, which you can see up on the screen here. Public school teachers compile list of parents who dissent from racist liberal curriculum, plan to expose them, which we'll be getting to here shortly. They want to create a system where they're going to compile a list of these parents. It's from Virginia. Let's scroll up here. It says here a radical group of critical race theorists. Yes, critical race theorists are racists. Teachers, former teachers, and others in Loudoun County, Virginia, sought to silence parents who objected to the school system policies by compiling a lengthy list of the suspected opponents with the stated purpose of to infiltrate their group, use hackers to disrupt their communications, and expose these people publicly. Then it referenced Daily Wire. We just keep going on here. And then on to note here, secret communications reviewed by Daily Wire do not offer any evidence of racism by the group's targets. That means the parents who are more negative about this critical race theory, or even attempt to. Their opponents were apparently those who objected to critical race theory, sought to debate it, or even were just neutral on the topic. Okay, so critical race theory, even if you're just neutral on it, these people in Virginia, a group of people, a systematic, a government group of people, school system, were looking for parents and trying to create a list, and maybe even hiring hackers. This is serious business. This is dangerous, and this is highly illegal. So you can read the whole article here. It's on LifeSite News. I'll try to leave it in the description below if you want to research this article even more and read through all the text. The next one is a positive story from the USA Today website. Positive in the sense, not a positive in the sense that I agree with it, but a pro-LGBTQ story, aiming for teachers to teach more of this stuff in the school system. I just want to hit some high points here that are interesting. And again, just like the last article from LifeSite News, you can go and read it yourself if you want more research. It says here, kids aren't learning LGBTQ history. The Equality Act might change that. And that's one of the reasons why we need to continually to oppose the Equality Act, whether it's now or later. And whether it gets passed or not, we have to oppose it, and we have to oppose it with extreme measures here. I'm going to skip down here. The Equality Act would enable protections within education, particularly on how teachers implement LGBTQ inclusive curriculum. Again, this is coming from a pro-LGBTQ curriculum perspective. These people are pro-LGBTQ, teaching your kids LGBTQ issues here. It signals to educators who are not part of our community that they, too, can hopefully implement language, representation, and curriculum that is LGBT inclusive. And again, it goes on and gives more detail. The LGBTQ plus history is American history, and world history. And it's time that our education system approaches it as such, making the space and providing the resources needed for teaching the next generation a more inclusive and just version of history. This stuff is scary. And I want to note something very important here in this second paragraph on the screen here. Talking about different states that have discouraged it, talking about Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, and Texas have discouraged LGBT inclusive teaching, but there's a number of states that have included it. California, obviously. Colorado, okay, that's pretty obvious too. Illinois, I live in Illinois, guys. That's in Illinois. If you live in Illinois, if you live in California, Colorado, New Jersey, and Oregon, and as well as it talks about some counties in Maryland and Virginia, they have laws that mandate LGBTQ inclusive curriculum. But this does not mean that states that are not noted on here are not teaching it. Just because these 5 states discourage it or maybe forbid it doesn't mean that teachers are not teaching this type of stuff or teaching something else. If you're in these states, you have to start rethinking your education policy for your kids. All right, let's keep going. I think I have one more paragraph here I want to talk about. This is someone talking. One of the people I think that interviewed, maybe Sam Long or something like that. He says this: my concern for science students, talking about science students who don't have a teacher and curriculum that is gender inclusive, is that we're missing out on a lot of opportunities to support and to validate our students. He said we could give them the reason they need to continue going to school. He's trying to say, oh, science, we don't have that. So hint, hint, we need to include LGBTQ curriculum in the science world as well. Natural sciences what they're trying to do is impact the natural sciences even. So this is really concerning, and I think we need to be really more aware of this and take steps to prevent this at local levels, for sure local levels, county, city, state. You have to hit those. Those are the most important. National levels, you can only do so much at the federal level. Hit the local areas with the local areas. The article I think may be the most important is this article by Dennis Prager. Remember, Dennis Prager is a Jew. He's not a Christian. However, he's pro-Christian in his ideas. He has lots of Christian friends, and he knows that if Christianity gets hit, Judaism is getting hit too. So whether you're a Jew or a Christian, you will be hit if you are not actively protecting your family against this type of stuff. And he goes on, he says this: most American schools are damaging your children. Yes, it is. It's not just Illinois, California, and Colorado and some other ones. It is most American schools are damaging your child. This is very serious here. He says this in the first paragraph, he's been telling his people on his radio show and his lectures that if you send your kids to college, you're playing Russian roulette with his or her values. Then he goes on to say this: the worst news is that sending your child to almost any elementary school or high school, public or private, and I want you to remember that, public or private, is fast becoming equally toxic. More and more schools are being taken over by left-wing ideologues and by non-ideologues who lack the courage to confront the ideologues. Once infected with leftism, these schools teach children to hate reason, tradition, American Christianity, whites, excellence, freedom, and masculinity. If these things are concerning to you, you may want to start thinking about homeschooling. He goes on to say this: why then would you talking about some things about COVID, and this is one of my concerns that he kind of brings up a little bit here. It's like, so many conservatives, so many people in the Republican Party, so many people in like the Trump administration were saying, oh, we need to send these kids back to school. Oh, we need to send these kids back to school. And maybe some kids need to go back to school. I don't know. But all I know is that if you're conservative, if you're a Christian, you should not be sending your kids back to school. Pull your kids out of school. At the end of this semester here, pull your kids out quietly and start homeschooling. Just leave the public school system. You have to leave. Get out of the public school system. Oh, I have to have 2-parent income. Believe me, you can do it. Live on beans and rice. There's plenty of ways to do this here. Sell your car. Get a junker. Sell your house. Get a smaller house. Start saving like crazy. Stop going on your vacation. Stop living like the Joneses. Get rid of your TV or whatever else you need to get rid of to save money. If you need to save money, start saving money and start saving hard. But you have to get your kids out of public school. This is the number one priority in your life right now, is getting your kids out of public school. He says this: why then would you send your child to be taught by people whom you have or should have so little respect? This is my point. Why are we pushing people to go back to school? No, you need to be homeschooling here. Why would you send your young child, to a school that sponsors a drag queen story hour or that dwells on non-binary gender identity? Do you think such things do not damage your child's innocence? Do you want your child to be challenged about his or her sexual identity? This is serious stuff, guys. This is very serious here. Why would you send your child to any school that teaches the New York Times 1619 project? This project holds that America was founded in was not founded in 1776, but rather in 1619, with the arrival of the first black slaves to North America, and the Revolutionary War was fought not to gain independence from Britain, but to preserve slavery. Goes on to say this, and this is I highlighted a bunch of stuff here, and I want to read through this because it's so important what he says here. He says this: whenever I meet adults who hold traditional American values, I ask them 3 questions. The first one is, do you have children? And if they do, my second question is, how many of them share your values? It is not common to meet people all of whose children share their parents' traditional values. If they respond that any of their children do not share their values, my third question is this: what happened? In every instance, he says here, in every instance, these parents attribute the alienation of their children from the parents' values to the college and increasingly to the high school of their children attended. Moreover, not only are these children alienated from their parents' values, but they are often alienated from their parents. One thing you learn when you become left-wing is to have contempt for those who hold other beliefs. Had these parents known how their children would turn out, they would never have sent them to college or even to the high school they attended. It appears, however, that no matter how many people lose their children's heart and minds to left-wing indoctrination, and no matter how much information accumulates about their perversion of education in American schools, parents continue to take risks with their children that they would never take in any other sphere. I am well aware of the enormous obstacles. If your child wishes to study STEM or science, technology, engineering, and math, or law, the college remains necessary. Otherwise, it isn't. He goes on, and you can read the article. I'll have a link down below again. So he's saying the exact same thing I'm saying here, guys. You do not need to go to college. If you have to go to college, go to a good college, number one. There's a number of good colleges out there. Do some research. Do a little bit of research before you send your kids to a good college. I could give you some ideas on other ideas if you want me to do a video on that, on ideas that will help you decide how and where to send your kids to college. And I'll give you another quick idea. If you do want to send your kid to a public college or university, send them to one that's close to home where they can live at home with you, where you can have conversations day in, day out. Make sure that there's a church. Make sure there's people at church who are knowledgeable, who can answer questions, who are well-rounded in apologetics. Make sure your kids go prepared to school. Make sure they're aware of these ideas before they hit the college environment. High school and junior high, grade school. If your child's for sure kindergarten, first grade, and grade school, you should be homeschooling, period. And if you can't, there's only very, very few situations where you cannot. If you're a single parent, that's a concern for a number of reasons. I understand. But if you have a 2-parent household, you should be homeschooling. Monetary, you can get by. There's ways of getting by. Move. Get a different car. Get a different house. Whatever. High school, a little different story. Each kid's different. But for sure, grade school, you should be homeschooling, period. High school, you can send your child to high school, public school, or private school if you have them well trained. By that time, hopefully the student is well trained and well connected with you. You have a close relationship. College, same thing as high school. Be careful. Each child is different. Make sure you pick your college. Sometimes you can do online college work. Take that if you can. I did a lot of online classes. It's great. You have to be dedicated, but homeschoolers are well prepared for online college because that's how they learned how to study, was on their own, and learning through long distance and stuff like that. You can be there, you listen, you can participate, you can have conversation. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, especially if you stuck around this long. If you did, please like this video, please subscribe, please share this on your social media. Whether that is Facebook, Twitter, Gab, USA Life, or wherever you do your social media. Also, do check my social media sites, Facebook, again, Gab, USA Life, Twitter, whatever. And with that, I want to also encourage you to go look up my website, iApologia.com, subscribe to that as well. Also, I want to remind you that there is a book coming out at the end of March, early April 2021. So do check that out as well. It'll be on my website, iApologia.com, and I'll give you more information about that, how you can get that, and I'll probably try to get it to you for fairly cheap to even free if you do it right. So with that said, go out and give your world Christ.